I cannot hear you, Isaac. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Turn it up.
Can you hear me?
That's a little better.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you good.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for coming on the Ellis Talker. I really appreciate it. This is the first time for you coming on. And, I really wanted you to come on and talk to the people of Ellis County. Now, as you know, the census said we got more people in the neighborhood. It's getting kind of crowded over here. So I wanted you to go ahead and talk to the people that may not know you, tell them about yourself and kind of give them a rundown about you.
Well, Isaac, first of all, I want to thank you for everything you do to keep people informed. And it's a pleasure to be on your show tonight. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Well, as you know, I'm Todd Little, the Ellis County judge. I got elected January of 2019. And I've been in the county 50 years out of 52 and grew up in the Red Oak area. And it's been quite different these days in Red Oak than it was several years ago. As you know, my family moved out of South Dallas into Ellis County in 1970. And we had a family farm out there. And we just had a good time with our animals and baling hay and taking care of property and managing farm duties as a kid. So that's where we are now is Red Oak's gone from 500 people during that time. And now there's 30,000 people in that school district. So we've experienced a lot of the things that most Ellis Countyans have experienced. And that's a lot of growth. That is pharmacies moving in, new schools, grocery stores, lots of road construction. And as you know, with all those good things, we also have to deal with some of the issues that pop up with growth.
Yeah, there's definitely issues when it comes to growth. You were telling me offline that, people come for the country, but now it's starting to expand and get real city from all the people moving, which is a natural progression of things. So I wanted to go ahead and go through one of the issues that, because I wanted to kind of touch on some of the things I haven't been able to touch with you about, and just kind of tell the people of Ellis County kind of how your vision, how this went. So COVID hits. This, nobody knows what it is. It's, really scary. There's people getting really sick. Nobody knows what's going on. You're the county judge. You're seeing your hospitals fill up. This is really serious. How did that go for you? Can you kind of give me a little bit of a play-by-play on how that went and how you processed all that?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you asking. I do remember in January of 2020, we had heard about this virus from China back in November, and it started impacting overseas. I remember because in January we went to Colorado for skiing and a family trip. And I remember hearing about a guy that came over from France, and he was actually riding the gondolas over there going skiing, and he ended up contracting the COVID virus while he was in the States. So the very first time I had heard about COVID was two individuals was in Washington State and in Colorado, in Keystone, Colorado, when about 25 to 50 people got infected by this skier that was going up and down the mountains in the gondola. Shortly after that, we fast forward to January. President Trump does a lockdown on foreign travel from China. So what happened was that was really the first indicator that I needed to pay attention to something that we called COVID-19. So we fast forward to February, we fast forward into March, things are starting to heat up, it's spreading across the country. We are beginning to hear what's going on in New York City. And sure enough, on March 17th of 2020, we were asked by the president and the governor to declare a disaster for our communities so we could do two things. One of the things was to obviously protect the most vulnerable, that is those individuals that were declared to be 65 and over and that could have vulnerabilities that we weren't sure about with the virus. And the second thing that they told us was that we needed to flatten the curve on the healthcare system. Now, what that means is we did not have the personal protective equipment. We didn't have the number of ventilators. We didn't have the supplies in our medical industry to handle a global pandemic. So I was asked by Governor Abbott and by the President Trump to declare the disaster, to basically bed down and keep people safe for about 30 days. Now, as you know, a county judge's declaration only lasts for 7 days. And then the commissioner's court actually would choose to confirm the county judge's decision on that declaration. So we did a declaration on March 17th at 2:00, and March 24th, the commissioners voted to extend the declaration for 30 days. Now, I will say this, we did not realize how good our timing was going to be. On March 17th at 2:00, we declared the disaster. At 7 p.m. on March 17th, we received our notice of the first positive test for COVID-19 in Ellis County. And that was in Maypearl, Texas. Somewhere where you would never think that COVID would go is a community that's very spread out and very rural, like Maypearl, Texas.
Yeah, and so you get this call that there's some virus you never known about, and you're trying to flatten the curve, and you're doing things. This is all new. I mean, that's why they called it the novel coronavirus at first. Anything, I mean, it's kind of hard to say what would you do different, but I mean, is there anything that do you feel that you responded to it as best as you could at the time? Did you have the resources you need to deal with that?
Isaac, one thing I remember is that we were talking with the fire chiefs and the superintendents of the school districts. And I remember hearing that, Judge, as superintendents, we need your direction and your guidance, because March 17th was the Wednesday of spring break all across Ellis County. They said, Judge, if we're going to postpone school for another week as people get back from international cities, Midlothian had 150 families that were traveling abroad during spring break of 2020. So they said, if you don't declare a disaster on Wednesday, then we don't have Thursday and Friday to tell people and to get them informed that we need to extend spring break for another week. And that's essentially what happened, Isaac, was I declared the disaster as county judge. That is one of the things that I'm tasked with, is being the emergency management director, which is a big title. It's not something that most county judges know how to do when they take office. And we had been in office for 14 months at that time. So we had to seek legal counsel. We had to look at Chapter 418 of the local government code. We had to determine what our abilities were. And then we were guided by professionals such as the CDC and the FDA at the time, which now we all know that is a political hot potato, because they have changed their definition of COVID mitigation many times over the last year and a half. And, at that time, 30,000 kids and parents and teachers were coming back to Ellis County in the middle of spring break. So what did in fact happen is they did extend spring break for another week. So it was a 2-week spring break in March of 2020.
Yeah. So fast forward to now, where are we at as far as COVID? I know we're kind of getting through the Delta variant. It's kind of on the downstroke. Just kind of update the county on where we're at right now.
Well, we went from 0 hospitalizations with COVID in March of 2020 to almost 40%, 44%, and it went on up to 80%, where 80% of our hospitalizations were COVID patients. What that involved was ventilators, that involved steroids, that involved breathing machines, all kinds of things. So what that time allowed us to do was to get in the PPE, get in the face mask, get in the face shields, get in the gloves. It was a period of time that was very uncertain for us, and it was uncharted waters. I mean, we haven't had a pandemic like this in 100 years?
Yeah, 1915 or something like that. Yeah, it's been a while.
Certainly not in our lifetimes. And I'm not a nurse. I know that you're not in the medical field.
Oh.
So we were dealing with lots of new information, right? So yes, we're going to lean on the professionals and the public health professionals and the MDs and the doctors that tell us what we need to be doing. Now, today, when we were told we were going to actually have 20,000 people in Ellis County die from COVID-19, we literally were given statistics that 1% of our population was going to die, Isaac. So when you look at, I'm sorry, it was 10%, because we're at 200,000 people. We were told that we were going to have 20,000 deaths. Now, as county judge, when you put that weight on your shoulder and you think about what can I do as county judge to mitigate 20,000 losses in my community, and now that the game has been played, we are on Monday morning, right? So the decisions we made were urgent decisions. They were things that we were being advised to do. At the time, they might have been exactly what we needed to do.
Right.
In reality, we've only had about a 1% or a 0.099%, because even as recent as last week, we've only had, well, and I can't say this lightly, because we have had 400 plus deaths in the county due to COVID-19. Now, some of those deaths were people that already had post-morbidities. Some of those were cancer patients. Some of those actually contracted the virus inside the hospital, and they died in the hospital, but they were designated as the COVID-19 deaths. And I think we're at somewhere around 425 to 430 when we were originally going to have 20,000 deaths.
Yeah. That, getting that number thrown at you, I could imagine that all kinds of things went through your head, and you were on action mode when you get that kind of number. Fortunately, we're down on the downstroke of this, and we're kind of moving on it. But just for the record, now, as you know what you know now about this virus, would you ever support any mask mandates in this county?
Isaac, we have never supported a mask mandate. We push back against a mandate. We also push back against a vaccine mandate. We believe that
resolution. Yes, you did a resolution. Yes,
the Commissioner's Court did a resolution 5-0 to press back against the president's mandate. We are not intending on forcing any business in Ellis County to vaccinate their employees. We would never support fining a business. As you know, I'm a small business guy. I pay enough in taxes. You pay enough in taxes already.
Yeah. And
a $14,000 surcharge because you didn't vaccinate your employees, we think that's unconstitutional. And certainly it's not incentivizing to the economy. We know that. Matter of fact, it's the opposite of that. And it de-incentivizes an employer to go and increase his employment base.
Right. Now, kind of moving from the pandemic, as if that wasn't enough in that spring, in the summer, you have, major riots going on all over the country over race and racial issues going on in this country. Can you briefly share your thoughts on how that went down, how you perceived it, and how some of the things that you wanted to do going forward?
Well, Isaac, certainly with uncertainty, it's important that people have the ability to protect their family. So one of the things that we did when I first got here is we instituted a resolution that would support our citizens' right to carry. Before September 1st of 2021, it was illegal to carry a gun in the state of Texas unless a concealed weapon, unless you had a concealed carry license. But as you're aware, the state legislature just passed a new bill in May, I believe, that was effective on September 1. So one of the things we did 2.5 years ago was we told our citizens in Ellis County that we supported their right to carry, and that the Constitution says, thou shalt not infringe. It's actually the Declaration of Independence. Thou shalt not infringe on your right to bear arms. And I believe it's the Second Amendment. So, one of the things that we do here is we support our citizens' freedoms. We support their constitutional rights and their right to defend their persons and their property. And when you talk about riots and you talk about things that are racial tensions, these are some of the things that our country is dealing with today. You look at Portland, Oregon, you look at Washington State and Seattle, the autonomous zones. These things are things that are unproductive. They're certainly not doing anything to build our families. They're certainly not doing anything to educate our children. And we do everything we can here in Ellis County to keep things civil, to keep things safe, and to keep the rights of our citizens as a high priority.
I love our county for that. Definitely when most people were burning stuff down, we were having prayer sessions. So
that's right.
I love that about our county.
And we have, Isaac, twice this year, we have already as commissioners embraced the National Day of Prayer. And then in August and September, when we had the COVID surge, that was the second surge, the variant surge, we did a Ellis County Day of Prayer. And in our resolution, it talked about healing. It talked about leaning on something that is a higher authority. And we were asking God to come and protect and heal the people and the citizens of Ellis County.
Yeah. And I did see that. That again, something I love about my county. So you went through COVID, you went through, that unrest and stuff. Let's just fast forward to now. You recently went through budget.
Yes, sir.
And obviously taxes are an issue. And even though county is a small portion of your tax burden, it's still part of your tax burden. So talk about, county taxes, this budget. Did you like the budget that passed? Would you have liked some different things? And what did you guys do with taxes?
Well, Isaac, I was very happy to report to our citizens on September 28th, a 5-0 vote by our Commissioners Court to reduce the tax rate down to what we now know as the no new revenue tax rate. This is the second year that I've actually passed a budget. As you know, in the state constitution, one of the jobs of a county judge is to be the chief budget officer. And so we manage the money, we present the priorities to the Commissioners Court, and we bring in all the departments. And one of the things we were proud of was this was our second year in a row to be able to reduce the tax rate. Now, we understand that people's property is increasing in value because of good economy and good economic principles, and because our citizens invest in quality projects. We've had an increase in revenue this year of $4.4 million, even while we reduced the tax rate by 3 cents, by 1.5 cents, which means as you see the economy level off, the appraisals level off, you will experience a leveling off of your property taxes. And even when the values begin to creep back down, when you need the tax relief the most, you're going to get that tax relief because the county's rate is continuing to reduce. We've expanded the ability to use our reserve balance. So we're operating now out of a checking account that you give us the money and we spend only what you give us as taxpayers. You know, one of the things I'm proud of is when I got elected, we had 6 months of balance on the citizens' taxes. We've now reduced the balance of the taxes the citizens give us down to 3 months. So 9 months of your taxes that you give us is at work for you as citizens. Instead of only 5.5 months, we are now using 9 months of that cash flow to handle the county priorities. And some of the things that I'm proud of that we've done is we've increased our spending in public safety, Isaac.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
Absolutely. 2 years ago, this year we are on our 3rd year of the Sheriff Step Pay program. That is where our sheriff's deputies are capable of receiving an increase in pay for the tenure, the length of tenure that they stay here. That is a 7-year step plan. Something else we're proud of to appreciate is that we have implemented a retention and recruitment program for our employees here at the county. So they get rewarded for staying employed with Ellis County. And, you know, one of the biggest costs, Isaac, to running a business is training costs. We know when we lose employees to a competing county government next door or to a city that's right next door, we know when we hire that new employee, we're going to have about 6 months of solid training to get them up to speed where that former employee exited. So that retention program is to continue to offer rich benefits in our health insurance program. We have also implemented this year the longevity. We reinstated the longevity pay for an individual that has been here after 1 year. Year 2, they begin receiving that $5 a month or $6 a month for longevity pay. And we've continued to increase the training and the education budget for our employees. Because we think that if our employees are educated and trained on how to do the job, they're going to do it more efficiently and they're going to do it better. So those are some of the things we focused on this year when it comes to staffing and the recruitment and retention of our existing employees. We have 20 new positions in this year's budget. 6 of the 20 positions, Isaac, are directly associated with our sheriff's department, new deputies, new dispatchers, and new detention officers.
So needless to say, Ellis County will not be defunding the police.
We will be doing exactly the opposite of that, Isaac, because one of the things that we enjoy, and I know we're probably going to move into the growth, the area where we talk about growth next. Mm-hmm. One of the things that would quickly discontinue the growth in Ellis County is if we were unable to keep the citizens safe. One of the primary reasons that people move to Ellis County is because of the rural nature, the country rich living, the culture and the heritage that we have here, and the good educations when they bring their children here, the good school districts and educators that we have here in Ellis County. So public safety and education are the 2 highest priorities in Ellis County. And I believe that we're set up economically with the healthcare system that we have and the transportation system we have. We can get into that in just a minute.
Mm-hmm. No, it's one of the basic functions of the government is to, roads, police, those are basic functions of the government. So I'm very glad that you were able to hire more deputies and do a step plan with them. That helps. Now, obviously, Ellis County has grown. The census was throwing out crazy numbers. There are people moving to this county, a lot of people coming to this county. So how do you balance as a county? How do you balance this growth with, trying to keep some of the things that make this, this county a wonderful county?
Well, it's not easy, frankly, because we are so close to Dallas, Texas. We're a 30-minute drive from McKinney Avenue in downtown Dallas, where people want to go to eat at great restaurants. And we're 30 minutes from Love Field. We're 45 minutes from an international airport. And when you look at the positive growth that we have done, there's 2 or 3 things that I really focus on when it comes to positive growth. Number one, do we have the quality standards that the state allows us to put in place when it comes to approving projects that developers or citizens want to reinvest in their property? For example, one of the things we did this year, and it's been 15 to 20 years since we've done this, we hired a contract attorney to come in and shore up any, we wanted to shore up any weaknesses in our sexually oriented business ordinances. What that means is you can't just put a strip club on the international highway anymore because Ellis County doesn't have the code updated. We literally have a strategy now where we are fighting against the negative pressures that we hear. So we've upgraded our alcohol permitting. We've upgraded our sexually oriented business ordinances. We are continuing to invest in our code enforcement and our fire marshal's office. Matter of fact, one of the new positions in the budget is a new fire marshal. That is, everybody says, well, what's that cost, Judge? Well, that cost over $100,000 just to add a new fire marshal position.
Yes, it does.
And that is to assist people in battling against a junk car, or 6 or 8 of them that are next to the neighbor next door. And, the Constitution talks about individual rights, Isaac, but when your individual rights begin to pressure and reduce the property values of your next door neighbor, at what point have your individual rights affected the rights of the group, right?
Yes.
So we've put in those, we have twice in 3 years updated our quality and our development standards, what we call our quality, our quality initiatives and development standards, such as whether we put a stop sign or a yield sign on that county road, whether we allow 21 driveways to abut a county road, or can we work with the developer to reduce that down to 5 driveways like we did 2 weeks ago out in Maypearl, Texas in the county, where we were able to work with the developer, and the neighbors around that were very happy with the changes that we made to the plat where those 212 new homes are going to go. The second thing that I'm very proud of is our transportation network. When you look at Ellis County and the road network that we have Interstate 45 headed to Houston. We have I-35 headed to Austin and San Antonio. We have state highways on every corner, such as Highway 664, Highway 660 in Ferris. We have Highway 55 south of Waxahachie. We have State Highway 31 or 34.
It's a lot of highways.
I mean, we have lots of state highways and federal highways that are funded by our federal and state government. And then we have the network of county roads. So we were very excited to create in 2017, 18, and 19, create the first ever Ellis County Thoroughfare Plan. So when we have a new plat coming to us, we actually request the right-of-way be given when the property is platted. The road may not be 80 feet wide yet, but we have the right-of-way that the county has that we now own instead of having to pay for. So when we do have the traffic someday, we can expand that roadway to include those 4 lanes that we need to move the traffic. Wow. And I would say, Isaac, the third thing that is one of the most very important things is our healthcare and education network. When you look at our healthcare network, you just drive from Arlington and Mansfield into Ellis County, and you're going to see the brand new $200 million Methodist Midlothian. It is a top-notch facility, and you continue down 287, and at 35 and 287, you run into another $200 million facility called Baylor Scott and White of Waxahachie. who, by the way, became our partner when it came to delivering vaccines to our community, to the tune of vaccinating 85,000 Ellis County citizens.
Wow.
That was the county's job to do that.
That's awesome. That is.
And then you continue on down to Ennis, and you've got the Ennis Regional Hospital, who has been assisting us from day one on the COVID mitigation efforts on the east side of the county. So when you look at the healthcare infrastructure, when the new growth does come, we're going to have the cardiologist, we're going to have the Cancer Institute, we're going to have the urgent care facilities, like up in Red Oak, where they built a $5 million urgent care facility. That's the Arlington Memorial Hospital. So we've got some major regional healthcare brands. And last but not least, certainly, is our education network. When you talk about our Navarro College, one of the successes that we just got in this legislative session was the House bill that created the new nursing program for a 2-year college to offer a 4-year Bachelor of Science in Nursing program.
I saw that. That's big. That was huge.
The commissioners supported that initiative back in January, and we did a resolution and sent it to Senator Birdwell, sent it to Representative Elsie at the time, and they got that passed through the legislature. And in 2 years, we're going to be training nurses to come out of that education facility. And then you lean over to the technical trades, and we've got Texas State Technical College, Isaac, right here in Ellis County at the Red Oak campus.
Wow.
who now has a federal workforce program, and they're working directly with kids in high school to do a 12-week program, and they come out of high school making 18 to 20 bucks an hour working for the aircraft manufacturer Bombardier at the Red Oak plant.
Wow.
So there's some cool things, and I shouldn't fail to mention the Tarleton program that's over in the Midlothian Navarro College buildings.
Right.
It's a 4-year university program right there in Midlothian.
Definitely, those things are things that I've noticed, but you've put into words. These hospitals have popped up, and these things have happened in this county. So the county is definitely keeping up with its growth in some things, definitely in the schools and stuff. And I appreciate your leadership on that. Where you and the commission have been on this. I wanted to talk about 2 issues and then give you the mic to talk to the people of Ellis County.
Yes, sir.
So you're on a recent, there was a recent audit of the assessor, and there was some issues about that. Can you speak on that?
I very much can. It is a public report, Isaac. We did disclose it and discuss it in open court on Tuesday. If anybody wants to go back and review the live stream, they can do that at Ellis County, Texas website. We had a tax assessor in Ellis County for over 25 years. What happened is, in county government, you have people that stay in these positions for a long period of time.
Yes.
What happens is the business processes, just like technology, they change very rapidly. So what happened when I got elected is one of the core principles to my campaign had to do with transparency, and it had to do with financial feasibility and safeguards to protect our citizens' tax dollars. So one of the things we've done is, it's all part of fiscal responsibility. We have put lots of resources towards our auditing team. When I got elected, we had 4 people in that department for a county that collects taxes for over 40 entities. For example, the city of Midlothian, the city of Alma, the city of Ferris, the Midlothian ISD, the Red Oak ISD, Waxahachie ISD. The Ellis County Tax Assessor Collector collects all the taxes for those organizations, and then you put the cherry on top. They collect the taxes for all of Ellis County, the county taxes. So we now have 11 to 12 positions in that audit department. we have segregated those departments with 3 different departments. And when they began to do their work, we started auditing and reconciling bank statements, Isaac, that had not been audited or reconciled since 2007 or 8. Some went back as far as 2003. And if you are interested in that report, we do have it online. It is available at anyone's request. And in the end, after we did that 2-year audit, they wrote a check from the tax assessor collector's office to the county's general fund for over $1.8 million. And that was monies that were in the bank account at the tax assessor's office, but it had not been audited in many, many years. So one of the goals that I will always have is fiscal responsibility, where every dollar in revenue should be used to benefit the community and you as citizens. If we don't appropriate or don't count the money right, we can't put it out there at work for our citizens. And that's the goal, first off, as long as Todd Little is your county judge, because I have a degree in finance from Baylor University. I have operated with my dad a family small business since 1968. Dad started the company and I came in 92. I've paid a lot of payroll taxes, Isaac, in my life. I've paid a lot of business income taxes. And the reality is, I know what it's like to be working people out there and living, in a sense, out of your business checking account on a paycheck to paycheck basis. So we are now operating the county, Isaac, much like you operate your personal checking account. And it's my goal that we will never operate at a deficit spending. And while times are good, it's always easy to prepare a budget. This year was difficult in the sense that we had several hundred requests, but we had the money to approve the priorities that the Commissioner's Court awarded to our departments. But I'll tell you what's a lot more challenging is in the years where you don't have enough money or you have a reduction in funds. It's much harder to budget in the years where you're trying to cut. But as long as I'm county judge, we're going to be transparent and we're going to make sure we never operate at a deficit.
So another thing that came up recently, before I give you the mic to Ellis County, was the redistricting. There seems to have been a little slither added to one or taken out from another. Can you speak on that vote?
Yes, sir. Isaac, as you know, every 10 years, there's a decennial census done. Ellis County census went from 140,000 in 2010 to 193,000 this year. So when you look at having 4 precincts, which are constitutional, based on the Texas Constitution, we have 4 commissioners' precincts. Our job as commissioners is to equally divide the population in those 4 precincts. So I liken it much to a 401k plan. You may have your portfolio divided up 25% for each quartile at the beginning of January 1. But when you come around to September, October of the next year, your balance is going to be a little bit off in some of your accounts. And in other accounts, it may be lesser because the performance in those funds haven't done as well as the other ones. So every December, they recommend that you rebalance your portfolio in your 401k plan. So every 10 years, we are tasked as commissioners to rebalance the population of Ellis County. And what that does is that plays with the lines, which essentially plays with the supporters that these commissioners may have had for 10 years. So it's a highly political process.
It is.
Then you throw in the fact that you've got Republicans that may have different values or different desires than Democrats. And as you know, as a county commissioner or a county judge, we run on a party ticket. So you have to select whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Well, then you get into the Hispanic population, you get into the African-American community, and you get into the Anglo community. So we have to look at all of these things, and they have to meet federal guideline when we get to the end. And yesterday, or let me say Tuesday, we successfully passed a redistricting plan that divides up the population less than 10% deviation all across the county for 4 commissioners' precincts. Now you get into political issues where one commissioner he wants this neighborhood, the other commissioner wants this county road, the other commissioner wants this friend. But all in all, the commissioners have to live in their precinct. So we can't draw the lines to cut out an existing commissioner. One of the other things that we did was we have 2 options right now that we're considering for the justices of the peace and the constables. Right now, we've got 1 justice of the peace that's doing about 65% of the work in certain areas like evictions or small claims court.
Right.
So we have to divide those duties up among those 4 JPs.
Right.
And you start changing those lines, you start making those justices of the peace or those constables or commissioners uncomfortable because they've been serving that population for 10 years.
Right. Yeah, I saw that some people chimed in about the redistricting, but redistricting, it doesn't matter on what level it happens. It's going to be political. It's going to be, there's going to be some people who like and some people who don't. And, the same thing happened in our county. Now, I wanted to go ahead and wrap up and I heard you have a big announcement. So I'd like you to talk to the people of Ellis County. Tell them, what you need to tell them, and we'll wrap it up.
You bet. Well, let me shift real quick back to redistricting, Isaac. One of the things that we did, the attorneys that we hired said, Judge Little, out of 80 clients that we have, only 2 counties decided to go with the public hearing process and appoint a redistricting committee. And Ellis County was one of those. We had 2 public hearings, and the process was very transparent. And we will finalize that next Wednesday at Commissioners Court when we draw the lines for the JPs and the constables, the JPs being the justices of the peace. As you know, it's statutory. Every county judge in the state of Texas will be on the ballot March of 2022. So it is already time for my first, I've been in 3 years now. My first tenure, my first term is almost over. It will end in December of 2022. So it's now time for me to decide. And obviously, this is a decision that I make with my family, not without my family. And me and Don have decided that the last 3 years has been incredible. It's been challenging. It's been unpredictable. And we're at a stage in our life with our kids off to college where we want to invest in our community, Isaac, and continue to do so. As you know, Dawn, my wife, is a health science teacher at Baylor, a health science teacher at Red Oak High School. She is a registered nurse by trade. And I went to her a month ago and I said, honey, it's time for us to make a decision as to whether or not we're going to continue this for another 4-year term. And of course, she's been through the COVID stuff with me. She's been through the uncharted waters, through the uncertainty, through the campaigns, through the negative comments on Facebook, through all of the emotions that we've had. And Isaac, we are in a position in our life where we can commit another 4 years to our Ellis County citizens if they so desire. So one of the things that I'm going to say, I announced it a couple of weeks ago at the party meeting, is that me and Don are going to put my name back on the ballot in March of 2022. And we're going to run again to be your Ellis County judge. Now, I look at this, Isaac, like a job application. I look at it like if the citizens of Ellis County, if their wishes and their needs have not been met with me, it is completely their decision. And I appreciate the honor, and it's been humbling to serve, but ultimately it's in their hands whether or not I get another 4 years. One of the big points of contention when I got elected was the county judge's salary. When we got elected, immediately we returned $70,000 back to the citizens of Ellis County. And that's something that we have always been committed to do. I do not raise my salary without Commissioners Court approval. That is not something that will ever happen. Isaac, I'm not doing this job for the money. I'm doing this to make a difference in our community. It's a community I've been in for 50 out of 52 years. I've raised 3 children. I've been married to my wife in this community for 29 years. And if the citizens of Ellis County would decide that they want to put me back in January of 23, I'm going to put my my resume back out there for them to hire me again if they so choose. If they choose to go a different direction, I'm completely comfortable with that. I'm a prayerful person. Isaac, I pray that God put me where he wants me to serve and where I can be the best. And the last 3 years have been a great honor, but it's been a challenging 3 years. But I think since we've gotten through the first 3 years, I think we can get through the next 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would be privileged to serve Ellis County again as their county judge. It'd be an honor.
There you have it. He's announcing again. County judge, I'd love to have you, Todd, on about a month till the election, maybe a little over a month, if you want to talk to the people of this county as a candidate.
Sure.
I'd love to have you on. I appreciate you coming on and talking. We went a little longer than I had told you, but we had so much information to cover, and I really wanted to get to some of the things that I haven't been able to talk to you about. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking to the people of Ellis County, sir.
It's been a pleasure, Isaac. And
thank you so much for serving.
Let me put one last gig in. If people want to get to know me, they can go to my website. I've got a campaign website, which is votetoddlittle.com. And I've also got a county judge page that they can go to at co.ellis.tx.us. They can see all of the budgets that we've passed. They can see those redistricting maps. They can see all the resolutions where we've created transparency and protected their citizens' rights. And the next proclamation will be the Veterans Day proclamation that the commissioners will approve on November 10th. We'll have that posted there. And if anybody's interested in learning about me and my family, votetoddlittle.com. And it'd be terrible if I left out my slogan. My slogan is, if you want to win big, then you got to vote little, Isaac.
I like that. That's good. That's good. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for serving, because I know that you had mentioned your wife earlier, and some of the comments, people could get outright nasty and they dehumanize people. So I appreciate your service, sir. You take care.
Thank you so